Hello guys, and welcome to another Battlefield 1 video. Today we're going to be looking at the DLC maps, or the expansion packs which have been announced, and we're going to be looking at the first one in a bit of detail. So it is Name of the Tsar. I think that's how you say it. My pronunciation is going to be horrendous throughout this whole video, so just don't say anything about it. But from what I've seen, there's been a huge amount of coverage on this, of course, but it's mostly been, from what I've seen from YouTubers, it's mostly been just short videos, just basically repeating what has been said from EA, from Battlefield 1. So I'm going to go do about 4 videos and go into detail about just a bit of background about, well, I've done some research, and we're going to just take a look at the history of each DLC, kind of. So the first one's Name of the Tsar. But yeah, we're going to go into detail about what it says. So we're going to take a look at what Battlefield said in the description first. So, as another army previously left out of Battlefield 1's release, the Russian army is marching into the game as part of the next DLC. DICE is setting up the gameplay around the snow-covered ravines of Lupkow Pass and the skirmishes on the archipelago during the Albion assault. So, just like I said, pronunciation is terrible, but archipelago means a small group of islands from what I understand. So we're going to just say group of islands from now on every time that word comes up. And that's during the Albion assault. What's more, you'll be able to fight as a hussar in the Brusilov offensive. And the Brusilov offensive was a major Russian attack against Central Power armies. The offensive was launched in June 1916 and lasted until late September, and this push took place in what is now Ukraine. So, first off, we're going to take a look what is the Tsar. So it says Name of the Tsar as the title, and the Tsar is an emperor of Russia before 1917. So the emperor during the war was Tsar Nicholas II. And he was forced to be he had a forced abdication on the 15th of March 1917. And this was because his reign saw the fall of the Russian Empire from being one of the foremost great powers of the world to an economic and military collapse. So that was during the war, I would take it. So we're going to take a look at the first part of this, and it is gameplay around the snow-covered ravines of the Lupkow Pass. So the Lupkow Pass is a significant mountain pass in the Carpathian Mountains on the border between Poland and Slovakia. As you can see in the picture, we'll put it up here, I believe there is a train on there, and there was a train line between, there was a tunnel, and it was associated with a railway line which was finished in 1874. And this was to link Galicia with the rest of the Austro-Hungarian Empire across the Carpathian Mountains. So that is why there is a train. I guess that will be another behemoth, probably the same as Argonne Forest, I would think, or along those lines. So the Lupkow Pass was one of the strategically important Carpathian passes, and it was bitterly contested in battles on the Eastern Front of World War I during the winter of 1914 and 1915. So there was a Russian offensive on the line of the Vizlok River and the Lupkow Pass. This failed on their first attack, but there were further attacks on the 8th of May in 1915, and that allowed them to capture the principal chains of the Carpathians. So to sum up, the whole Carpathian front between 19th of March and the 12th of April, the Germans suffered enormous losses. Well, it was the Germans and the Austrian armies. They suffered enormous losses and left in the Russians' hands 70,000 prisoners. That included 900 officers, and the Russians also captured more than 30 guns and 200 machine guns. So we're going to move on to the next part, which was the Albion assault, I believe. Yep, so the Albion, it was Operation Albion, and it was the German land and naval operation, which lasted from September to October of 1917. So, this was an invasion and occupation of the West Estonian small group of islands. And this was between the German forces and it was the Russian forces, but there was also a British submarine squadron of 9 submarines, but I doubt that will be included because it was just those submarines. So don't think the British will be in this DLC. So at the beginning of World War One, the islands were of little importance to either Russia or Germany. But after the revolutionary turmoil in Russia during 1917, the German High Command believed capturing the islands would outflank Russian defences, and this would lay St. Petersburg vulnerable to an attack. So this operation, or this offensive, ended in a German victory, and the Germans claimed 20,000 prisoners and 100 guns captured. When we say guns, I expect they mean like the big field guns, not just like normal guns. And they also captured the islands, the group of islands. So finally we're going to look at the Brusilov offensive, and this was in 1916, launched on the 4th of June and went up until late September. So the offensive is called the Brusilov offensive because it was named after the commander in charge of the southwestern front of the Russian army, and that was General Alexei Brusilov. So, on the 8th of June, Russian forces of the southwestern front took Lutsk. And Lutsk is a city in, I believe, northwestern Ukraine, I'm going to say. Let's just take a look. Yep, northwestern Ukraine, or what is now northwestern Ukraine. So, General Alexei Avert was one of the generals in command of the Russians, and he continued to delay his part of the offensive. So Brusilov had taken Lutsk, but Avert had been delaying his part of the offensive, and this gave Germany and the German High Command a chance to send reinforcements to the Eastern Front. So it took a long time for Avert to get his assault together, and on the 18th of June, so that's 10 days after Brusilov had taken Lutsk, Avert decided to put together a weak and a poorly prepared offensive. And it just didn't work. On the 24th of July, Alexander von Linsingen, we'll go with that. We're not. The pronunciation of some of this is going to be terrible, but so this guy counterattacked the Russians south of Kovel, and this temporarily checked them. Now it took up 4 days, and then on the 28th of July, Brusilov resumed his own offensive. And although his armies were short on supplies, he managed to reach the Carpathian Mountains by the 20th of September. So Brusilov's operation achieved its original goal of forcing Germany to halt its attack on Verdun and transferred considerable forces to the east. It also broke the back of the Austro-Hungarian army, which suffered the majority of the casualties. So that's just basically a tiny bit of background, a bit of the history about what these 3 kind of offences, these battles are going to be in the DLC. So I'll have put in a few photos and stuff along the way, but if you guys enjoyed this, then let me know and I will do my best to do it on the other 2 or 3 DLCs which have been announced, the expansions. But thank you for watching as always, and I will see you next time for the next video.
We lost this battle to these unpredictable Americans. First the Friedensturm, now here beside the Meuse River. But we few, we live to fight again. In the Argonne forest we shall never be broken.
The Germans were using defense-in-depth tactics designed to lure the enemy towards much stronger rear defenses. The victorious doughboys marched